So hello and welcome back everybody to the latest edition of the Quantum Compass. My name is of course David and
I'm Bella. Hi, welcome back.
all right, so we are now just in the closing stages of this way spell, the Red Skywalker. It's been a very, very interesting one, but now we're about to move into the next one in this castle, this white castle of refinement, and we're going to be working with another white glyph, which is the White World Bridger, which is very interesting for a couple of reasons, because the Bridger and the Skywalker actually work very, very well in harmony with each other. They're actually the guides and allies for each other. So this gives us a little bit of a motif, right, Bella, on the bigger picture coming in, which in conjunction with all of the astrology in this way spell is going to give us, I think, a little bit of a heads up of how the roadmap is going to look over the next, well, at least the next 13 days, but also leading into the rest of this way spell and actually up to the end of this lunar year.
Which ends in July. So yes, we're going to give you the 13 days and a little bit of what's coming for the next few weeks. It's a very important moon that we're starting now.
Right, so without further ado, we're going to get into today's presentation and guide you through what we see in the mix. There are a lot of interesting astrological transits, but also this way spell of the World Bridger after the Skywalker is giving us perhaps a motif of how we're going to bring heaven to earth, which is really the mantra of the Skywalker. So let's get into it and see what we have for you all today. Alrighty.
Right. So as we were just mentioning, we are still in the storm year. This is the energy that is still catalyzing the big change for the planet. I absolutely think that this is the moment where we bridge from 3D to 5D. It's a process that is being catalyzed by the energy of this storm and is making changes not only in the outer world, but in our cells and our DNA. So all of our light body is also changing. And we expect many big changes between now and the end of this lunar solar year, which ends on the 24th of July. So as we were saying, there are 13 moons in the system that we're following. This 364-day cycle has 13 moons of exactly 28 days each. And we are entering on May 30th, the 12th moon of this cycle. It's all to do with cooperation. It's called the crystal moon of cooperation. And the totem is this beautiful rabbit here. And so it's about collective energy. It's about working with each other, about circles. It's the power of collaboration and cooperation. And as a totem, the rabbit is inviting us. It's actually one that joins heaven and earth as well, and the underworld. You know, there are all of these stories of Alice in Wonderland and the importance of the rabbit and all of this energy. So it's a very important energy because it's connected to our shamanic journey and to bridging realities as well, which is very much the topic of this wave spell. The rabbit also represents sensitive people and seers and their psychic powers. So after we know that we're coming out of the moon of the serpent and that moon of liberation, which I hope you were successful at getting rid of things that weren't working for you, shedding the skin, doing more of your inner work, bringing the shadows out, everything that needed to be done, because the rabbit is inviting us to go to the next level. Because in the earth plane, the rabbit is the navigator, and it has the perceptions to pilot through any darkness or any information, which is what is happening now. There is so much disclosure, and we need to learn to navigate and not to get pulled into any emotional stuff, which is going to happen a lot of polarization when we see happening in the next few weeks. Anything? Do you have anything on the rabbits?
Well, the rabbit is also a symbol of fertility, of course, and perhaps this is a moment where, as we're wanting to plant our new earth seeds into the earth so that they can start to be nourished and grow and watered and start to flourish and flower, we can say perhaps the energy of that type of fertility in ourselves, and inner fertility, we can say, as our own seeds of new ideas maybe are getting birth. So I think this is a really good totem to have for this lunar month of cooperation, the crystal month, right?
I also like this part, that the rabbit reflects those moments when we must hop into unfamiliar surroundings. That may be the case for the next few weeks or months. We may have to be in that mode of ready to move, ready to make moves out of the blue. So that is the 13th moon. So we are about to start the moon of the crystal moon of cooperation. Now we're going into the Solkin, which is also called the sacred round. And we have just completed the first wave spell of this castle. We're about to enter the second one, which is called the World Bridger energy. And so in this white castle, what we are doing is refining the energy, discerning the energy of what we have just created in the previous one.
Right, and perhaps it's also worth at this point just laying out how this particular castle looks. And the more that we've been working with the Zolkin through the last few sacred rounds, and the more of our tribe that have been working with it, the more we're starting to understand the energetic flow of the glyphs, of the wave spells, of each day's own oracle, how certain patterns repeat themselves, and how we can start to work with that inner standing of the Zolkin and the sacred round. But also, you know, as we look at this white castle of refinement, we're in the first wave spell, the Skywalker. The second one is the World Bridger. The third one is the Storm, and the fourth one is the Human. So from a very, we can say perhaps simple overview look, we can say, well, the Skywalker is about bringing heaven to earth, bringing perhaps more non-physical ideas, intuitions, pieces of information that we can bring from maybe the sixth, seventh, eighth dimensional realms. And then we bring them into the world of the World Bridger, because part of the Skywalker's remit is to bring heaven to earth. So this is why we have this really beautiful harmony between these two glyphs, the Skywalker and the World Bridger, because the truth is Skywalkers need World Bridgers to help bring their very cosmic, often ideas and thoughts and intuitions into a place that can be brought into 3D, so they don't just end up as some sort of chaotic, crazy idea. So what happens when you bring some of those far out ideas into the 3D, particularly if they're perhaps of a newer vibration, a higher vibration, new earth vibration? Well, as we bring those down into 3D, there is a high potential of catalyzation of those ideas. And if those ideas are perhaps in somehow, let's say, revamping the old system, let's just put it like that, or refurbishing the old system, there could be some storm energy as people start to clash heads, or we could say get polarized over whose idea is the best one. We'll get to all of this in the astrology because it's also there. But then if we can get through that catalyzation process of precision, rather, we can say, then we have the wave spell of the Human, which feels really, really significant before we go into the blue wave spell, which is really more about abundance and accumulation and finalization, right?
You mean the blue castle?
The blue castle, sorry, yeah.
It's transformation.
Transformation. So really that makes it, you know, if we just follow those sort of basic principles of the energy, we start to get an idea of how the next sort of, well, it's not quite 2 months now, but a castle is basically about 2 months long. We're already a quarter of the way through it. So the rest of this wave spell is kind of going to take us up almost until the end of this lunar year of the storm. So it feels very much like the storm is here. And the storm is meant to be here because we need the catalyzing energy, but we've also got this energy of refinement, right, Bella, which is perhaps giving us more of the nuanced details of exactly what it is that we want to bring from heaven to earth.
Right. And we have, with the tribe, the idea of doing at least one immersion of a wave spell per castle. So we already did one for castle number 1, the red castle. Now in this castle number 2, we have a poll going. If you want to participate, you can comment down below. Whether we hold space for the wave spell of the storm or the yellow human. We're still considering, we think it's they are like the next 3 wave spells, starting with this one, are going to be quite intense for the collective. So we're thinking, like, where are we going to hold space together with the tribe, and which one's winning at the moment?
Well, so yeah, at the moment, last time I looked, the Human was slightly ahead. And of course, to go and vote on that, as Bella just said, please just click on the post tab here on the YouTube page and you'll see that there and you can vote on it. But just maybe for 10 seconds, just to give an overview. So the storm, as we can see, is about catalyzation. Could be stormy, could be choppy. So we can understand some reasons maybe to hold a container there and guide everyone through that and be in the safe space together. Or perhaps maybe that's more of an individual process and it'll be more uplifting to come together for the wave spell of the Human as we go through that expansion process after the storm. We're very open in this particular case. Our guides have asked us to bring the tribe and you, our audience, who might want to participate in that immersion, into the journey space with us and also contribute to perhaps working as a collective unified consciousness field. It's no longer just about what comes through us here in our tribe, but it's what comes through all of us. And so we'd really love all of you who might like to participate to actually also cast a vote on that.
So on this slide, I apologize for typo. The dates are incorrect here. It's not September. It's actually May 29 through June 10th. May 29 through June 10 is actually the correct date. And we start with Kin 66, which is, this is the wave spell of my galactic birthday. So I will be paying attention as I explain to people that come to do a galactic signature reading. When you have a galactic birthday and it is your birth wave spell, it's the energy that you already have as part of your mission. You play a role within that wave spell. So my role is a lot about bridging the world of the 3D and the 5D and everything that we're doing with here and New Earth. So everybody that has a galactic birthday as part of this wave spell would be part of that mission. And it's like, I like to explain it like the ascendant energy that you already have, like in astrology, is part of you. So you participate with this. So this wave spell starting on Kin 66 ends on Kin 78, and we have three galactic birthdays, three galactic
Portals.
galactic activation portals. One of them is my galactic birthday. So we have day 4, day 7, and day 12 as a galactic activation portal. So I think here is where the energy gets to be ramped up. We'll get to see a lot of information, a lot of mass awakening, and many people bridging into 5D.
Right, so a couple of points here. Yes, as Bella says, when you have your galactic birthday in a way spell, I pay extra attention to it, of course, because it somehow is part of your overlay. But also for those of you who have the glyph of the World Bridger, you can also participate, even if you're not necessarily the tone of magnetic World Bridger, which starts this way spell. It's a bit like the Skywalker way spell that we've just been in, because of the energy of the way spell and because of my own glyph, I can feel into it and then contribute from a Skywalker perspective into the collective. So also an open invitation there to all of you who have the World Bridger to really be in that energy and help us collectively bridge the world to bring heaven to earth.
Right. So here we have the glyph highlighted for you to identify it. But if we have to talk about the world bridger, the qualities are obviously bridging the worlds, bridging different realms. It also has the connotation of death, but it's death as an ending, something that ends and then there is a new beginning. So being part of these cycles of life and death, but accepting these cycles as, you know, like nature does. We know that the trees and the plants, they accept their cycle, they go through it. The flowers come, then the leaves fall. Everything has a normal cycle, and this is part of the teaching of these archetypes. Also, the connection with the spirit of the ancestors is very, very much what we can do. It's a period of time where you can do more of that connection if you still have some healing to do with some of the family or ancestors that have passed. This is a good moment to do that, to let go, to do your detachment, to do your forgiveness process, to surrender and release anything else that is still there, to transmute, to do it with lots of humility, and to be ready for revelations. So this wave spell has the power of death, and remember death as an ending, the guidance of our ancestors. The action is to equalize. We're trying to bring a balance into the two worlds and to have a smooth process of going into New Earth. And the essence is opportunity. Rather than focusing in the amount of things that are finishing, we're leaving behind, the people we're leaving behind, the jobs, the relationships, the dreams that didn't work out, we want to see the opportunities of what we are actually being presented with and the new dreams that could be part of it. So doing your surrender and release with lots of gratefulness for forgiveness and compassion, and then opening ourselves to the opportunities that are about to come. So as I was saying, this is a wave spell that goes from May 29th to June the 10th. And there is, as with every single archetype, shadow that we can work with over these 13 days. One of them is control issues. If you still feel that you need to control what your partner does, what your children do, that everything is done in a certain way, it's a good moment to review those control issues. Also, fear of death, whether it's your own or a relative or whatever, in general, fear of death. Resentment is a very important one, resentment, because from the studies of biodecoding, most of the cancers that humans experience have at the core the emotion of resentment. When you free that core wound or that emotion from your field, then you can see the improvement in when it comes to these illness. Also, another shadow to work with is not accepting the cycles of life and death, or when you know that a relationship has come to an end and you're still kind of resistant to go through the process, or anything that you know that has come to an end. Let's say even your children, that they are growing up. You also need to accept they're ready to move on to the next cycle of their lives. So whatever it is that you need to accept when it comes to cycles. Some tips on transformation would be obviously overcoming any of those fears, to trust and enjoy the journey of life. This is a lot of what we've been guided to do. Try to enjoy every single little thing from now on, because it's going to get really intense. That's why it's so important to enjoy any small thing of your day, at least one thing a day that you do that brings some joy into your life. With this wall bridger, you also want to let go of bad habits, habits that are not good for you anymore. Fears of limitations, release and forgive. Don't have any grudges. You know, we if you still not don't sleep well at night because you're thinking about that conflict, that argument. It's a good moment to release and forgive. Do lots of ho'oponopono. Send light, visualize the best outcome out of a conflict, welcome new opportunities, and embrace the highest version of yourself.
So I find it fascinating that this particular way spell comes in a moment as the astrological transits are also indicating endings, the death of something. But people get very, very freaked out and say that the word death is morbid and that we shouldn't look at it because it's going to bring it closer to us. Well, the truth is death is always coming closer to us, and so we better accept that. And like Bella was just saying, you know, this is not necessarily a moment where we're all going to cross the veil. Some people might, maybe the energies are too strong, and that's something we also have to be okay about. We have to accept. Yeah, I mean, with these energetic patterns coming from the universe, we're still ascertaining exactly where some of them are coming from, but they are definitely coming into the earthly plane and coming into our fields. And if we haven't done that essential inner work, chances are it's going to start bringing some of these things that are in the body to the surface. And some people may find it easier to cross at this time. But in principle, what I think we're looking at here, Bella, is the end of the old world. And how do we let go of that? Because it can be very tempting to want to step into the new world, but bring the baggage of the old world with you because it feels familiar. That's really just recycling the old world. And I think that we need to be very aware of this at the collective level. It's like, what are we prepared to let go of for a brand new, crystalline new earth start? If we're still bringing all the old crap, all of the old habitual thought patterns, the judgments, the resentments, codependencies, the belief systems, then that ain't new earth, folks. That's still the old system, the old paradigm, the old slavery matrix. And this is what we, the collective now, we feel have the responsibility or even the invitation or possibility to do, is to raise our consciousness levels as a unified field so that those other lower frequencies, which are still pumping out garbage mostly and fear porn and narratives that don't suit us, they literally won't be able to exist in this energetic space. So the emphasis comes back to each and every one of us to do our inner work. It is literally the most powerful thing that we can do. And when we do this work, we take responsibility for our thoughts, our words, and our deeds. And every single day, me and Bella are meditating on all of these things. Like what's going through my mind? Oh my gosh, I need to recorrect that. I'll go and sit in meditation. What came out of my mouth? Wow, I could have reflected that better. Not to beat myself up if it comes out wrong, but to say, you know what? Maybe there was a slightly better way of doing that. Next time I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to center myself before I respond. Or if I don't have the right words to respond, maybe just exit the situation and tackle it a different time when the energies are more settled. So I think, Bella, this World Bridger is really asking us to bring the higher principles that we've been gathering during this Skywalker way spell and to bring them into the earthly plane, but also be aware at the same time what that actually means as it comes into manifestation in 3D, which is probably why we have the storm after this way spell. So with the astrology, with Saturn entering Aries and then meeting Neptune, as we're going to get into in the minute, we're going to have a lot of endings. But with every ending, there's a new beginning. And there is also something being birthed right now. In many ways, we're actually giving conscious rebirth to our own cosmic star child self. Quite far out, quite bonkers, but it is actually, I think, increasingly the reason that we're here is we're here to go through an ascension process from the alive waking state. When we die normally, we have the opportunity to ascend, but then we have to come back through the whole process. This time round, we're doing it differently.
Mhm. I'd like to give a shout out
Yeah.
to some of the members of our tribe who we have a lot of wall bridger people in our tribe, and it makes sense because our tribe is part of the bridging of 3D to 5D, and we've done the rainbow bridge journey. We've done a lot of work connected to bridging, like the 3 trees, working with the oak. We've done a lot of bridging, and I like to say send a big hug to Leslie
I
and
was just
Maya
gonna,
and
yeah, the same
many
thing.
others that are part of the tribe that have this glyph, and you guys are amazing, and you play a very important role.
Yeah, especially I want to give a big shout out to the sister Leslie who I did a lot of videos with. You've literally been my Well Bridger sister and helped me bring my Skywalker stuff into a place where it makes sense. So thank you very much. But this is how the glyphs can work together, and obviously the Stellar Nations material is very much about bridging worlds.
Right, and as usual for every wave spell, you want to have an intention, a purpose for day one that you're going to work with for 13 days. So this purpose could be connected to bridging. In our case, it could be about moving homes, moving to another town, moving to another job, any type of bridging that you do. It could be in the 3D, or bridging meaning accessing material. If you've been thinking about doing stellar nations or doing any of the courses that we have, or another course, or learning astrology, anything that bridges you, it's a perfect intention to have during this wave spell. And then you ask each one of those questions as the days progress.
So to assist you in this journey, we've been running an offer here on our very deep and rich 13-part journey, the Navigation Guide to Quantum Consciousness, which is really let's say, our best attempt to share all of this information with you that's coming through the 13 tones of creation, the 13 steps of the ascension ladder, but really the 13 steps to becoming a quantum consciousness being. And everyone who's finished this course, us included, can absolutely testify that by the time you get to the 13th chapter, the 13th tone of transcendence, you have changed a little bit. So we've been running an offer during the Skywalker way spell. Just want to flag it here in case any of you want to jump in. A really generous 50% off the normal price, but only until the end of this way spell in Central Time. So that's around about 10 to midnight, 28th of May Central Time. Please use Skywalk 50 as a coupon code at the checkout and jump into this course. We just actually had a really beautiful live call with that particular group, which you can also watch the replay of in the group on the QPW website, which is also a free group to join. We actually think this is probably one of the most important initiation pathways we've ever done. And it's until you do it, you can't really explain how is it, but it takes you through each of the 13 tones of each way spell, so that every day you're going through these way spells, you can feel into the energy of the tones, which also represent the dimensions.
And each one of us has a glyph and a tone. That's our galactic signature. So through this navigation guide, you can also go deeper into your energy and what do you have? How do you work in the world? How do you move around according to your tone? So you get to learn a lot about that. And also, I wanted to emphasize that because we see a lot of polarization coming for the next few weeks, we highly recommend at least chapter 2, which gives you the tools and some keys on how to deal with polarization at a personal and collective level.
Alrighty, so here we are now with the major astrological movements for this way spell of the White World Bridger. And there is quite a variety of stuff going on here, and I've kind of separated it out into 2 slides. But first of all, the whole way spell kicks off with another sun combustion moment, this time of a Mercury Cazimi at 9 degrees of Gemini. We do have quite a potent Black Moon Lilith flashpoint happening at 7 degrees of Scorpio on the 31st of May. We've been tracking the movements of Black Moon Lilith through Scorpio. It's been quite profound and is shaking up a lot of stuff in our world for sure. Then Venus gets in on the act the following day, conjuncting Chiron around 25 degrees of Aries, which is still somewhat touching on that Beta and Catus fixed star. So still a lot of potential healing work there to come there. We then have Venus in Aries sextiling Jupiter in Gemini. So also adding some more harmonious energies. Venus perhaps really in the role of healer here, Bella, which we'll have a look at in a minute before she enters Taurus. So we have a lot of sign changes happening during this way spell. Venus enters Taurus, Mercury enters Cancer, and Jupiter also enters Cancer. But Venus in Taurus will actually end up squaring retrograded Pluto in Aquarius, which will perhaps give us a little bit more of a challenge towards the end of this way spell. And as we look at the final 3 days of the way spell, we can see the energy starting to ramp before we get into the blue storm. So this is the overall trajectory. It's quite a mixed bag, but there's also really in the background, the ingress of Saturn into Aries, which has just happened, and it's kind of ongoing pretty much for 3 months conjunction with Neptune. Now, is there anything that you'd like to say about this at this point, Bella, about the overall? It's not appearing here because the actual exactitude is not going to happen, but essentially these two big titans of Neptune and Saturn are going to be.
I'd say that if we needed a sign of that we are entering the big changes for the world, for the planet, this is it. The Saturn entering Aries, then the conjunction with Neptune is saying we're here, it's a new way of doing things, we're going to start fresh. And then Mercury is doing lots of information gathering and sharing around the chart, which you're going to talk about, right?
Right, so just to show that here in the chart over here, literally right in the first sort of 2 degrees, we have Saturn now in the first degree of Aries and Neptune into actually the second degree of Aries, but they're going to be in this 1 degree or basically más o menos for the next 3 months. And so this is really about polarization. Saturn and Neptune, quite different energies, and we're already seeing and feeling in the world around us that polarization is increasing. People's viewpoints becoming more entrenched and more dualistic. And Saturn and Neptune in many ways could represent this, but it also represents the opportunity to move through polarization and actually come to a place of harmonization.
Well, the way I see it, yes, you're right. Harmonization and also bridging.
Yeah.
Saturn representing 3D and Neptune representing 5D. So
Yeah.
again, it's another process of bridging, which we start doing from now.
Right, so we can think of this as kind of our Saturnian self and our Neptune self, 2 different worlds coming into a place of, we can say, merging, really, and asking us perhaps to think about, first of all, the structure of our world in the 3D, how are we showing up for ourselves in the physical, but also with Neptune, perhaps how we're showing up in a more spiritual context, and how do we merge these 2 things? Of course, they're both now in the fire sign of Aries. Pisces is very much connected to water, and Saturn, of course, having just gone through a bit of a dismemberment process in Pisces, is now perhaps regathering himself and meeting his old buddy Neptune for a chat and asking, how is it in the new Earth? So these guys are also a bit like us. They're tentatively putting their feet into new territory and asking themselves, how am I going to show up now in this new kind of position I find myself in?
And because Aries is a sign of pioneers and beginnings and leadership. So Saturn being there is telling us or giving us an idea of careers and things that we can do, new ways of doing things, new systems. And Neptune saying it could be things that are connected to creativity, to healing, to alternative medicine, to spiritual work. So it's giving us kind of the idea of where we could all be moving as a collective.
And not too many people have picked up on this one so much, but also this Saturn-Neptune conjunction is actually a triple conjunction because it's also with the goddess of the corn and the harvest, Ceres. So perhaps there's also something there to think about how the combination of our new structure and spirituality perhaps will give us the opportunity for a new type of harvest in our life that maybe is focused on different principles, different authentic ethics, maybe that's perhaps less about money accumulation and perhaps more about spiritual abundance. Something definitely there to think about. But what's also interesting is that this whole little mini stellium here of Saturn, Neptune, and Ceres is actually being harmoniously supported with a sextile back to retrograding Pluto there in Aquarius. So the interesting thing is there's lots of powerful conjunctions and stuff that could cause a lot of polarity and issues in our life. But everywhere I look in the chart, as we're going to see in a minute with Mercury, there are these harmonizing aspects of trines and sextiles to perhaps smooth off the jagged edges, because otherwise things could actually be a bit too much. And you know, a lot of what the energy of this particular wave spell looks to be about is about the increase in pressure, increase in internal pressure, where you're perhaps trying to put the round hole in the square pin and it's not working when you're getting out of shape, and external energies are piling the pressure on as well. This is where daily practice comes in. This is where meditation, going to your eagle perch perspective, perhaps being more with your Neptunian self rather than one of your other aspects that are getting fired up or getting triggered.
So what David is talking about with that amount of polarization is shown in the astrology very much with the intense squares that are going to happen between Aries and Cancer. We're going to see a huge amount of them over the month of June. And that's where we feel that we may have to jump into an immersion with a wave spell, maybe with the storm, or maybe the following one, we're not sure yet, because it feels like there is going to be a lot of that intensity of polarization with those squares.
Right, so we can already see these squares starting to shape as Mercury and the Sun kick off this World Bridge away spell with another Cazimi. And so I just put this little slide here together because when I was looking through the transits of Mercury, he's off on another one of his message giving rounds, and he's going to be seeing quite a few different people. So on day one, he really gets into it, has a chat with the Sun in the early part of Gemini to get the lowdown. It's like, okay, what is the message I'm going to be taking to everybody else? He then goes into a sextile with Mars on day 8, and that kind of kicks off a series of conversations that actually spill over into the next wave spell as well, which of course we'll cover next time out. But again, we can see these harmonious aspects. Mercury now in Gemini, sextiling Chiron in Aries. A couple of days later, then is conjuncting Jupiter in the anaretic degree of Gemini, and then enters Cancer shortly after, along with Jupiter, which is going to set up a lot of the energy for the beginning of the next wave spell. We then kind of get to the penultimate day of this wave spell, and Mercury in Cancer then is having a little bit more of a challenge by having a square with Saturn, which is really where these squares that Bella is alluding to start to kick off. So the world bridger is actually bridging us into the world of the astrological squares, which are going to come up during the storm. Surprise, surprise. So this is where the energy patterns are leading us, and perhaps if we can take some solace in this moment, because there are big stormy energy patterns coming, I think we just have to accept that. And perhaps now we're getting prepared by bridging the worlds and saying, okay, which world am I bridging from? Which one am I bridging into? What am I bringing with me? What are the essentials? What is really, really important to me? And I feel that these conversations with Mercury, Bella, might, if we pay attention, because they are more subtle transits like sextiles generally, there might be some little messages for us to tune into. So again, inviting everybody in to connect with the Hermes, Mercury messenger part of yourself and see what the message is for you personally. It's going to be different for everybody, although there might be some collective themes too.
Yes, but I think as a whole, what the astrology is showing us is that there are very big changes, radical shifts happening for the collective, and even at a personal level, see where these energies are playing on your chart. And the idea is to flow with those changes, not to go against the flow with resistance, but to position yourself so you can flow with it and allow the new opportunities and your dreams to be the compass that guide you where you want to go next.
So I also just wish to draw attention to those of you who've been following our post for a while to the now sort of conclusion of the long-standing conversation that has been going on with Yeshua and Quercus. These are two energies we've been working a lot with in our tribe. We really feel that we understand these asteroids quite deeply now after working with them for about, we can say about 8 months actually. And so Yeshua is really bringing us the male aspect of the Christed consciousness energy, the 6th dimensional unconditional love, heart consciousness. And of course, Quercus the oak is really bringing us so much more as a celestial portal, the tree of the three doors. Really what we understand about the oak is that this is a being that's actually assisting in holding the structure of our world together, and we can all aspire to be the oak. So these are two very, very profound beings that have been having a long strategy discussion. They were within a degree of each other for a couple of months. Only now are they starting to move apart, and we have like a 4.5 degree orb. So perhaps this is an opportunity for reflection inwards into those ongoing conversations we've really been having internally with these two asteroids as our guide since the solstice, the Capricorn solstice at the end of the last year, when there was a lot of emphasis around the 3 days of stillness and the Crew constellation, which represents the 4 pillars of the Christed consciousness. So some of you have been following that process and perhaps just wanted to bring your attention to that to see how does that conversation finish up now as we bridge the worlds. Of course, the oak is a big world bridge. It could have been the tree of this wave spell, except you already got a shout in the Skywalker, so we had to come up with something different, but we'll get to the plants in a minute because another powerful one to work with.
I want to maybe leave the astrology saying that the entrance of Jupiter into Cancer, it's giving us an indication of that we are going to start living with our family based on frequency, a new way of creating families, maybe modern families where it's not necessarily blood related, but more frequency related, and where we start expanding and creating with optimism from that point of view. It's like a whole different way of having home, family, and living in community.
Right. So again, this is all relating to the sign of Cancer and the home, and this is where potentially, the squares between the planets in Aries and the early degrees of Aries and early degrees of Cancer could bring the sense of self and the home very much into focus, and how that is working out for you, how you're showing up in that space. And again, home should be where the harmony is really, and perhaps we need to be keeping things close to home for the next month or two. Maybe that's what Cancer is trying to tell us.
Yeah.
But do you think, Bella, here that as Venus conjuncts Chiron at that 25 degrees of Aries, this is supporting the process, or do you see something different here potentially?
You asked me this yesterday, and
Yeah.
what came through is that it feels like the healing process of Chiron now has the feminine touch, where we go through the process in a more harmonious way, with more love, with more inclusivity, with more receptivity. A lot of people have done a lot of big work to do with Chiron and their own inner work. So I feel that Venus comes now to give us like that soft hand of, okay, it's time to do it with
More heart.
more heart.
More heart.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I kind of see it that way too. And of course, this is around the Beta and Catal. So maybe this is the last chance for us to have a little last look-see in the Hall of Mirrors and see how we're looking now before we start to exit that part of our evolutionary process. And I think perhaps with Venus then sextiling Jupiter in the sort of almost the anaretic degree of Gemini, shortly before this big surge of energy into Cancer is supporting that process. Again, just pointing to the Black Moon Lilith flashpoint, I will put in the show notes what time that happens. I meant to put it here. But again, that 7 degrees of Scorpio is quite potent. And for sure, we're seeing this whole effect of Black Moon Lilith in Scorpio very much in the public eye, both in the spiritual space and in the more sort of widespread entertainment public space. I'm sure many of you will know what we're referring to here, and perhaps this is necessary. Well, for sure it's necessary. It's coming up, difficult as it can be to look at this material. So again, remembering for those of you that follow the BML flashpoints that these are mini portals through which we can send and receive information. So just popping that back into your awareness. Anything else from this, Bella, that we need to cover? I think we've sort of...
I think that's pretty good.
So really and truly, lots of movement. That's what I'm feeling. Lots
of changes.
Lots of changes, lots of Mercury action, lots of Venus
Lots
action.
of letting go with
Lots
the
of
world
letting go.
bridger. What do you still need to let go of? Surrender to the process and let go, and do it with love and compassion and move on. That's what the Venus and Chiron is actually.
So there's a lot to take on board here, and perhaps as we leave the astrology, I think the final thought I'd like to share is really get to know your Saturn and Neptune and see where they are appearing in which house, so you can start to work out which part of your life this potential sort of polarized conversation can start to be ironed out, and Saturn and Neptune can work together.
The new big cycle of your life. The
new big cycle, right? And I think that's why Mercury is so busy, or is going to be so busy, bridging the world, ferrying back and forth messages. We can think of the world bridger a bit like being Yggdrasil, the ash tree. The squirrel likes to run up and down the ash tree, delivering messages. That is its function in the world tree motif. So perhaps that's something to also tap into. So as I said, there are always a number of contenders for the tree or plant of the way spell. The oak would have been a great one, but we already covered that in the world bridges. So I wanted to reintroduce a plant, Bella, that really bridges the worlds within us, bridging the world of the non-physical, the psychic, multidimensional in our upper chakras, because the plant is Yarrow, Achillea millefolium. And this plant has lots and lots of really amazing medicinal properties. It's actually really, really good in herbal medicine for the throat. But in our system, we also have it as the throat chakra ally. Now, there are a number of reasons for this, which I'm just going to get into. But if we think of the world bridging, the throat chakra is the bridge between the physical world and the non-physical. So it kind of holds that space. So we have the front throat chakra, which is where we bring manifestation, the word. But we also have something that's often a bit overlooked, which is the rear throat chakra. All of our chakras have a rear chakra, but I think perhaps the rear throat chakra is the most important one because this is our psychic chakra. This is where we actually receive the incoming energy pulses as a sensation into our physical body. They are then held in the throat chakra and either sent upwards into the third eye for some sort of visual representation or sent down into the heart chakra for an energetic, we can say, analysis. If the energy is good, then it gets sent further up and down the system, or if it needs to be transmuted or harmonized, then of course it's going to appear in our third eye and trigger perhaps some sort of understanding that we need to alchemize here. This is an incredibly important chakra. They're all important, but this one I think is very important for this wave spell. But this plant actually helps us with a number of different energetic principles. The main one I often like to share around Yarrow is the mantra of Yarrow or the magic. The magic of Yarrow is intentional restraint, i.e. basically do what is necessary to get the job done, but with no fuss and no drama. For me, Bella, Yarrow often appears in a sort of a spirit form as the archetypal doctor in the field of war, where there are just lots of bodies coming in. He doesn't have time to find out how did it happen. He just has to patch somebody up, get them to the best place possible.
That's not a very nice picture.
Well, no, but it's the efficiency of it. It's like the point is like Yarrow doesn't want to hear about the dramas and how did we get here. It wants to deal with the problem. Efficiency, yes. Yeah. Yes. So it is a little bit harsh, maybe the picture, but this is how Yarrow presented himself to me. He says, I need to operate with efficiency because I've got a lot to do. I can't be getting caught up in dramas, basically. So I like this energy. And so, yeah, this plant is uber efficient in everything it does, especially in healing with no fuss, no backstory, just a resolution. It's also really, really good at clearing out, if you work with it with this intention, any blockages in the throat chakra, either the front place where we communicate from or the back one where we receive, we can perhaps say energetic communications into. However, this is a plant that can also help connect us to the ancestors. It's a little known aspect of Yarrow, but if you go into a meditational space and take Yarrow medicine and ask it to help with ancestral traumas, it will bring those to you for an efficient resolution.
Which the World Bridger is also kind of aiding here to a connection with ancestors. Family tree situations can be resolved during this wave spell.
Right, and of course, this plant is also known as staunch reed or wound wort, very connected to the energy of Achilles. You can connect to the archetype of Achilles through this plant. The plant is named after Achilles. I've shared this story before, and it's too long to share here again. But through some of these plants, you can tap into the avatar archetypes that actually they carry. And in this case, it is Achilles. And so this guy is really good at staunching blood flows in physical wounds, really, really good for nosebleed. He is the plant for nosebleeds if you suffer from those ever, but is also really good at repairing etheric rips and tears in the energy field. So for those of you that work in an energy way, perhaps have done some of our quantum plant upgrades, this is the plant that I work with in the energy field to repair rips and tears in the field.
Maybe a good idea to do a mini video for them.
Yeah, maybe if people think that's worthwhile. We did do a mini immersion with Yarrow many, many moons ago now, but this is a beautiful plant. It's really in bloom right now. We have it growing in the garden. There's so much more to say about this plant, but because of its understated, efficient way of doing things, it perhaps doesn't always quite get the medicinal fanfare that other plants do. So that's it really for the plants. That's really it for this particular episode. Bella here, of course, showing our Mayan Time and Magic course. Absolutely recommend jumping into that. And yeah, so this is really all we have for this particular episode. Anything you want to add, Bella, at the end here? I'm just trying to think.
I feel that these 3 coming wave spells are very important to help us bridge to new earth. We have every wave spell gives us that opportunity to do the process of whatever needs to be done and a day of liberation, which is day 11. So we don't feel overwhelmed with, I've got so much stuff to resolve. Take it one wave spell at a time, one day at a time. And this one is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to let go of anything that doesn't serve you anymore and to be able to move on with the opportunities that are being presented now.
Right, and just to summarize from my side, yes, I think this could be a very intense emotional month, lots of trigger points, lots of polarization. So I think here, Bella, from my point of view, the spiritual discipline is to be in a place of observation, try and be on your eagle's perch as much as possible. If you can go to a higher skywalker, Christed consciousness space, even better, because we're going to be holding space for a lot of people who don't have all of the tools, don't follow videos like this or do any spiritual practices, and really going to have no clue what's going on, but they're going to be feeling it big time. And there's going to be lots of triggers being put in front of people all across the planet. We can see some of them legit, some of them not legit at all. And this is where I think discernment as we bridge back into the 3D with our higher principles to see where to put them. If we try to plant seeds in bad ground, they're not going to grow. And I think that that's also something to be really conscious of. If you've got lots of great ideas, really be careful of who you're working with, where you're putting them, and are they really the best fit? I think that as we move forwards, it's not about judgments or projecting ideas or people or anything like that. It's about finding the best fit for what works out best for you and whatever it is that you're holding. And just to really sit in that frequency of resonance of the magnetization of the people that you want to work with to bridge worlds. That is what Day 1 of Any Way spell is about. And also, with all of these astrological transits coming up, they do tend to lean more into the blue stormway spell. So really urging everybody to make sure that you are prepared for the second half of this month. Not because we want you to be afraid. We're not. We're just watching what's coming, and we're making our steps and feeling actually it's okay. This is necessary. And what's most important is that us and our family are centered, grounded, and warm and protected. And I would say perhaps for the month of June, that's a good place to be.
And this wave spell also reminds us that it is us, we volunteer to be the bridge between heaven and earth, our higher self. The more that we connect to our higher self and our 5D self, the more we can bridge the two worlds. And that is our point of evolution. We're shifting, but we're shifting with our physicality as well. So it's a very important moment, a very important shift, not only for us as humans, but it's actually for the whole galaxy. This is happening for a huge amount of beings, and that is why they are paying so much attention to everything we do here. We are receiving a lot of support from upstairs as well. So I'd say be optimistic. There are many amazing things that will come on the other side of that bridge, and we're in the process of doing that.
Right, so moving forward, I'll be continuing to do the daily short videos for the glyphs on the YouTube short part of our YouTube page, but also really just recommending to everybody, treat every day as an opportunity to learn something, to take a joy from something, to have gratitude for something. And because there are so many astrological transits, I really invite all of you to have a look into your own charts and see how you can work with these energies, particularly with Mercury. This is a moment, I think, Bella, where if we're really open to it with the energies of the Sun and Mercury working in tandem, particularly on the Cazimi, if we have the intention, hey, I want to know more about myself and what my purpose is here, not to get into your head, not to have big expectations, but just be in a place to receive during this wave spell so that you can bridge your worlds, your inner world to your outer world. I think that's a big part of it. The above to the below, the in to the out, and vice versa in all directions. And that's how we get ourselves centered, grounded, and become like the oak. So I think that's it, everybody. Yeah, good luck. Please do comment below if you have any thoughts. Please do go to the post and help us sort of navigate into which immersion might be the most appropriate. And of course, please do take the opportunity, if you're feeling called, to go deeper into the tones and the Mayan universal time codes to make sure you use that 50% off offer, and go to the group and check out the really beautiful video that we had talking about how to get the best out of this, and many people who finished the course sharing what they got from that as well. So that's it for today. In Lakesh, everybody. See you all again next time. Bye for now.